Welcome to the Daily Insider here on Vegas Insider. I am Kevin Rogers. Today is Wednesday, February 2nd, 2022. It's Groundhog Day, so see if we have winter for 6 more weeks. If the groundhog came out today, I didn't check it, but we'll see. Anyway, a lot of stuff to go over today. Kyle Hunter is going to join us in just a few moments to talk about, I have to say, his Bengals. You don't get to say that about a lot of people, but his Bengals are in the Super Bowl, and Kyle Hunter also handicapper, Vegas Insider. He was the college football money leader. He's very good in the NFL, very good in college basketball. So we'll talk to him. Stephanie Otey will join us as well, coming up in just a few moments, as she does every Wednesday here on the Daily Insider. But before we get to all of that, want to tell you about BetMGM. We tell you all the time about BetMGM because they're the king of sports books. They are live in Louisiana now, among other states. And BetMGM offers a welcome bonus for casino and sportsbook new users. Enter the bonus code VIBONUS for a $25 no deposit free casino game plus a 100% deposit match up to $1,000. Enter VIBONUS in the BetMGM Sportsbook app to receive a $1,000 risk-free bet for your first wager. And BetMGM now live in New York as well as Louisiana, amongst other states. And check them out now at BetMGM.com. All right, let's bring them all in. Stephanie Otey, Kyle Hunter, all with us today. And it's going to be Ohio heavy, I guess, guys. Hey, the Bengals, you know what? I will say this to both of you, and I am not afraid to admit it. Going into that game, out of the two games, I thought 49ers-Rams toss-up Bengals, it's going to end here. It just will. Down 21-3. I had the Chiefs. Done with. But for Cincinnati to just chip away in that game, obviously the big tackle on Tyreek Hill at the end of the first half to keep him out of the end zone, and then to keep coming back, and then winning that game in overtime. Just a very impressive job by them. 3 straight weeks with wins, 2 in a row against the top 2 seeds in the AFC. Congratulations. That's just a great job by the Bengals.
Yeah.
Who wants to go first?
There's too much to break down. I mean, when you talk about the quarterback battle, Burrow, Mahomes, but it was the defense that showed up, the defense that won it at the end of that game. I just am so happy for Joe Burrow. He could be the first player to win a Heisman, a first quarterback to win a Heisman, a Super Bowl, and a national championship and he'll do it in 3 years. But everyone's forgetting the fact that he was basically out all last season with an injury because he had no offensive line to protect him. Well, everybody showed up big, went right when they needed it to. They were counted out. I had them plus 275 at the start of that week. And I kept seeing that number creep away. But, I mean, hey, they pulled it off, and Ohio is thrown. They are the new America's team. The Cowboys might need to step away because Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals are becoming America's team. Everyone's rooting for them in LA.
I know I'm rooting for them, that's for sure. And Kevin and Stephanie, it's good to be back with you again. Look, I was pumped about that. It's about as excited as I've been for an NFL game in a long time. And I'm being really cautious about my thoughts for the Super Bowl because as a longtime Bengals fan, I know how often I've been let down. Now, they've been amazing this postseason. I don't want to get my hopes up too high. I want to keep expectations kind of low so that, if they lose, I don't get crushed by it. And if they win, it's a nice surprise. But I was hoping the 49ers would win. I don't know if Stephanie, you were thinking that as well, because the Bengals need some revenge from their 2 previous Super Bowls. That would have been a nice storyline, but it is what it is. And now they have to play a road game against LA, which is not ideal. Hate anybody having to play a road game in the Super Bowl. Of course, that happened to the Bengals, but they've gone up against the odds here multiple times, and they certainly have a shot. So I'm looking forward to it. I wish it wasn't 2 weeks until the game.
Well, the good news is that the Bengals can kind of live in this world of being the team that's being talked about in a positive light, as opposed to years of negativity just because of the way the franchise has gone. But obviously, there's going to be a lot of talk about Joe Burrow the next 2 weeks and what he's done. And Stephanie mentioned the ACL injury he had last year, and they were a 4-win team. You would think that, all right, maybe they'll make some progress this year, but they win the AFC North. They hold off the Raiders. They win at Tennessee. They win at Kansas City. They have 2 walk-off wins in that. I mean, for Burrow, he is obviously the face of this franchise, but there's just so many more pieces to this team that it's not just about Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I think the top story about Burrow is like Stephanie said. I mean, how did he come back from that kind of injury? That was a severe injury. I didn't even know if he played this year, let alone be able to be this good. When that injury first happened, and he's still playing behind a really bad offensive line. That's my biggest concern. Certainly, I hope he can stay healthy. The guy that probably doesn't get enough credit, that now he's starting to get some more credit, is Evan McPherson. A lot of people at the beginning thought it was a bad draft pick to use on a kicker in the 5th round. He's been as good as you could get. Great draft pick there for sure. I think he's certainly a top 3 or 4 kicker in today's NFL already. The defense is much better than they were too. I'm not saying the Bengals have a top-notch defense, but this was a defense that was bottom of the barrel the last couple of years, and they've turned into a defense that really makes good adjustments. I really can't believe that they shut down Kansas City as well as they did after halftime, basically 2 times. You remember the first time they played, Kansas City had that big lead at halftime. They did again last week, and it's like, Kansas City didn't make the necessary adjustments in the second half either time. I think that speaks to the Bengals being well coached on defense, and they take some chances and get some of those picks when they needed it. The Bengals have some deficiencies as a team, certainly. They give up too many yards to tight ends. Travis Kelce was able to expose that. Kittle's done that in the past. I think they'll have plenty of weaknesses to try to for the Rams to try to expose, but I don't think the Rams are necessarily a team without weaknesses either. And I'm not sure Stafford. I've seen some people say the Rams have an advantage everywhere. I don't think the Rams have an advantage at quarterback. Stafford's not better than Burrow. Stafford still has plenty to prove to me. I mean, let's think about it, guys. 49ers really should have had that interception, and the 49ers probably would have won that game if they did. They kind of wilted away in the 4th quarter in that game, and Jimmy G didn't come up big in some of the spots. I know he was pressured quite a bit, but Burrow's pretty used to being pressured constantly as well. So I think the Rams will get a lot of pressure on Burrow on this one, and that's certainly my biggest concern as a Bengals fan. But I'm looking forward to this game, and 4.5 point spread. I think this has gone up just a tick. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this was 3.5 or 4 to start. The money's come in a bit here on the Rams. I don't know if you guys have any opinion on this. I think 4.5, it probably won't keep going up too much. I mean, you can't get the Rams up to 5.5 or 6, so you're going to get too much buyback on the Bengals. So I would think 4.5 or 5, it kind of settles in that range.
I was afraid of the spread for the conference championship, so I went outright Bengals. I'm so high off of that win. I'm just going to go ahead and take the spread Bengals. But you mentioned the offensive line, and Burrow was sacked 9 times against the Titans, only 1 sack against the Chiefs. So I ask you, there's been so much talk about whether or not it was the Bengals and their defense and Joe Burrow that won that game, or was it Mahomes making those late mistakes? Can we put it to rest? Who won that game, or who was responsible for the outcome?
Well, I mean, the Bengals defense, I think, gets the most credit for that one. Burrow got out of a lot of sacks. Some of those escapes, some of those scrambles were really impressive. I think that one where he evaded the sack and ended up running was probably my favorite play of the game. But Mahomes, I don't know what was going on with Mahomes and holding the ball so long and circling around backwards there. I mean, they were kind of lucky Butker even made that kick to get to overtime based on Mahomes lost about 30 yards, just running backwards there. But, I don't think that was Mahomes or Andy Reid's finest hours, but KC's a great team. They'll be back. Bengals deserve a ton of credit for getting to this point. They were up against it multiple times. Stephanie, I think I saw that you were picking the Bengals for this game, and I'm hoping you speak it into existence, because I'm trying to not get too high, but I'm counting on you here, Stephanie. Let's hope that you've got this.
Burrow's 8-0 in the biggest games of his career. He's a clutch player. We got him. Now,
the one thing I'm gonna throw a little bit of salt on this, and I want your views on this, both of you guys. You look what Cincinnati's done so far in the first 3 rounds. Vegas had a shot to tie him at the end. Derek Carr threw the pick at the goal line. Tannehill was picked towards the end. Bengals went down. McPherson had the long field goal. And then, like you mentioned, Mahomes, they had chances there to go ahead at the end. He fumbled. Luckily, they fell on it. Then they kicked the field goal. They've lived on the edge a little bit. And Cincinnati deserves a ton of credit for getting to this point. But not one of the games has been kind of wire to wire, no doubt. It's been biting your fingernails the last 3 games.
Yeah, and
all the games have been that way.
Right. Yeah, the NFL playoffs have been tremendous. Was it the wild card round? There were some bad games, and then ever since we've had tremendous games straight through. I can't imagine there's been a better NFL playoffs anytime in the last decade. I mean, it's been really, really good games. I would be surprised if either team goes wire to wire here. And I think people would say that the Rams would be more likely to win in a blowout if somebody was going to win in a blowout. But Burrow as a leader, I think he's about as good a leader as you get. You get to the end of the game, it's a tie game, you give it to Burrow. I think the team feels really good about it. I'm not sure what to think about Zach Taylor. I know that Taylor has some subpar play calls on first down sometimes, very predictable runs, gets them in second and third and long. Burrow's been able to bail them out a lot of times in that. But I'm a little bit concerned about his play calling, but at the same time, the players really like him. They play hard for him. They don't give up, obviously. So you can't say too much negative about him. I'm worried about Aaron Donald, Miller, and company against the offensive line, certainly. I think that really tough environment, too. I mean, we have to be fair and say that the Rams' home field advantage was really impressive against the 49ers. That was a really loud stadium in that game. It's fun to have a good environment like that. Like I said, I wish the Bengals weren't playing a road game. But certainly, Kevin, it's fair to say that, I mean, they've lived on the edge. They've played some pretty good teams, and they've been in spots where they were underdogs now twice in a row on the road. So just being to this point, as a Bengals fan, you have to be happy with their season regardless. But now, I mean, we got one more game to go. Certainly hope they can pull off that one more game for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to bet completely with my heart on this because there are stats backing it up. And you look at how the Bengals have come back big. I mean, they took down the Chiefs, and the Chiefs have never lost a game when they were up by 18 since they've been under Mahomes. And never has a team been able to pull off 2 comeback wins and then play that same opponent into a conference championship in a double-digit comeback. So the Bengals have overcome what no team has ever done before. And I got to say, it's because of how special this team is. I love the connection with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. They did it in the national championship. They've made history before. They got it going again. And if you're going to talk about the environment, Ohio travels very well. And the LA Rams had to deal with a team from the same state maybe taking over their stadium. So I feel really good about the environment. They were able to do it in Kansas City. I mean, that's a tough environment. So I feel like it's looking good towards them. And especially when they have a chip on their shoulder, I think that is even more of an edge to lean towards the Bengals. I don't know. I'm high on them right now.
I hope you're right, Stephanie. I really hope you're right. And like I said, Kevin, I don't think I'm going to bet this game. I think I just want to root on this game.
Oh, come on.
Fan. I don't think I can.
It's
Stephanie.
the year of the underdog. It's the year of the underdog.
Maybe I'll put pizza money on them on the money line or something. Tell the kids if it wins, we get a few pizzas. I don't know, something like that. Give them something to root for. Usually in the Super Bowl, I let my wife come up with a couple of the entertainment props so that she's interested in the game as well. So maybe we could put a little bit on the Bengals money line also. But I wish there were a few more props to pick from here early on, but I know there's a couple to get to. I think the total is fair here on the game at 48.5, 49. I think there's a lot of ways this game could go I think the Bengals probably play slowly. We saw the Bengals time after time nearly get a delay a game in their game against Kansas City. I think that was probably on purpose. They were trying to slow the game down, keep Mahomes off the field. It wouldn't surprise me if they do the same thing in this game. So I'm cautious to bet a high over with that being the case. At the same time, I'm not excited to bet an under on this fast track with these two offenses that are capable of big plays.
Yeah, we've seen 3 straight unders now in the Super Bowl on high totals. This total a little bit lower, so we'll see how that goes. What props are you keeping an eye on right now? And understandably, we're going to get the loads of props, the phone book like type props coming up, later in the week, and we got to decipher all those. But what props early on have you looked at?
I'm going to take Burrow under pass attempts here, 36.5. If you look at the postseason, he's had 38 and 37 in their last couple games, and both of those games went into overtime. So we can't expect that every game's going to go into overtime. Certainly this one could. The Bengals played at such a slow pace, like I said last game. I think they're likely to play at a slow pace again here in a neutral game state. So unless you think the Bengals get way down early, and if they're down 21 to something right away here, like they were against the Chiefs, and he still only got to that many passes. But if they're down big here, that would hurt the under pass attempts. But I think that they really want to keep the pass rush honest. And if they want to do that, we're probably going to see plenty of Joe Mixon in this game. Burrow's going to attempt a decent amount of passes. I'm not saying he's going to have a really low amount, but 36.5 is a pretty high number. I'm going to take the under here based on, I think the number is a bit inflated. His previous pass attempts, like I said, they've gone into overtime. And then last week they were way behind, so they kind of had to throw it a little bit more. I think Taylor would prefer to have Burrow around the 30 pass attempts here just because they don't want Donald on Burrow every single play. So I'm going to take the under for pass attempts for Joe Burrow.
And looking at the MVP, Matt Stafford is currently the favorite, plus 115. It's usually a quarterback. Burrow is plus 230. But there's so many different options that you could go with this one. You could maybe go outside of the quarterback. Are you considering that? Would you take a non-quarterback in this one, or is it looking like the shortest odds are more favorable for you?
I think if the Bengals win, it'd be really surprising if somebody other than Burrow wins the MVP. So on the Bengals, I wouldn't look at anybody else. On the Rams, I think you could look for other people. I wouldn't surprise me if somebody else wins it if the Rams were. Now, I don't know. Is there any possibility that a defensive guy wins MVP? If so, the Rams defensive player, maybe not the dumbest bet I've ever seen. You're going to get some massive odds, certainly. I don't have the odds pulled up in front of me as far as
I think Cooper Kupp was like the next one. He was the only he's the only non-quarterback that has odds less than 1 to 10. I think it was like plus 650 or something like that. There's so many guys on this Super Bowl.
Yeah, Aaron Donald's at 20-1, and Von Miller has won an MVP before. He's 50-1. So those would be the two probably biggest options defensively.
Yeah, I think Cooper Kupp and Donald are both decent plays there. I think I would want to bet that instead of Matt Stafford because I think the Rams can win even without a really good game from Stafford. I think the Bengals need a pretty good game from Burrow, and Burrow's been such a big story that it would be surprising even if somebody else has a big game if Burrow doesn't win the MVP to me. Sometimes we've seen people who probably should have won the MVP, but it gets given to the quarterback. I think this would be one of those cases, and I'm one of the biggest Burrow fans there is, so I think he would deserve it. But I think the Bengals, I wouldn't really want to look for anybody else. Donald, I think, makes some sense. Cooper Kupp makes some sense, and that kind of segues into my my second prop that I like. Most receiving yards in this game, I will take Cooper Kupp plus 120 here. The Bengals have some trouble with slot receivers in general, and if you have trouble with slot receivers, you don't want to be up against Cooper Kupp. Eli Apple talks a really good game, and Eli Apple is a Buckeye. I mean, Stephanie and I love the Buckeyes. Yep. I mean, I'm an even bigger Buckeyes fan than I am a Bengals fan, but Eli Apple
all day.
Yeah, definitely. But Eli Apple's been picked on several times. Give him credit for the tackle at the end of the half, but his pass coverage has not been great. Awuzie, Hilton are both better than Eli Apple. I think they'll probably try to get some other guys on Cooper Kupp as much as they can, but it wouldn't surprise me if Apple's up against Cooper Kupp a few times. And as a Bengals fan, that worries me. So I think Cooper Kupp, we always know that Cooper Kupp's going to get thrown to a lot. There's going to be tons of volume here, so that won't be an issue. The question is he going to get any deep balls? The Bengals have given up some big plays. I think Cooper Kupp gets quite a few receiving yards in this game. So plus 120 on Cooper Kupp having the most receiving yards of anybody. And I think obviously the biggest threat to that would be Jamar Chase. So we'll see if Jamar Chase gets any of those deep balls. The Chiefs did a good job limiting that, but I think it's going to be hard to get too many of the deep balls for the Bengals based on the fact that they got to get rid of the ball quickly because they don't want Burrow sacked constantly. So I'll take Cooper Kupp over, and then there's no real tight end props out yet, and we don't even really know who the tight end is going to be for the Rams. Higbee questionable, Uzoma questionable as well for the Bengals. So as we get closer, I think I'll look at some of the tight end props as well. Like I said, tight end props have done really well, overs against the Bengals. And then the only thing I'll say other than that about props is just a general one for viewers and listeners is everybody likes to take all overs. And I know I just said an over right there, but a lot of times when you get really close to the game, the unders have good value because a lot of bettors like to bet the over. So game day on Super Bowl Sunday, a lot of my bets are usually on unders.
Last question go ahead, Stephanie.
I was going to ask about the Jamar Chase because you got Jalen Ramsey back there. You got Donald up front. That one doesn't look as appealing to me, but T. Higgins got some good looks in that last game. I ask you, like, which duo do you like better? Is it the Matt Stafford, Cooper Kupp, or Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase? I'm assuming the Ohio lean, but
Yeah, I mean, I think Burrow and Chase are better than Stafford and Cup probably. Although Cooper Cup's so good, it's hard to say anything negative about him. Like I said, I think Burrow is better than Stafford. The matchup is tough though because Jalen Ramsey is so good. I would assume Jalen Ramsey is going to be on Chase almost the whole game here. In fact, if I was taking an over, I think I'd rather take T. Higgins over 5.5 receptions, especially when I see Chase right now over 5.5 minus 150. I'm not wanting to lay minus 150 very often on a player prop. So I would lean toward T. Higgins having the over in this one. And also whatever tight end plays for the Bengals, I think could get some looks in this one. Also, Joe Mixon could get some catches. So maybe a Mixon receiving and rushing yards combination would make some sense as well.
We'll get to some college basketball in a second with Kyle. My last thing on the Super Bowl, would you take a little shot with Evan McPherson for Super Bowl MVP? 100-1. You win this game 19-16. You have 4 field goals and a touchdown. Is that enough to maybe get McPherson the MVP?
Man, I don't know. That's a tough question. I mean, 100-1, so I don't hate it. You get a price like that. You put a tiny amount on it, and if it loses, it loses. I still think it'd be really hard for Burrow to not be named MVP unless he plays really poorly. I mean, I feel like in that scenario, you need Burrow to have played really poorly, thrown a couple picks, and it was just a really ugly game, and McPherson makes 4 or 5 field goals. McPherson's worthy of getting a lot of awards as well, because the guy's been so good as a rookie, just clutch as you could get. And it's important to remember that a lot of these kicks he's making have been 50-some yard kicks. These were not chip shots. So, I think it's a possibility. I don't hate it. I don't know when the last time or if there has been a kicker named MVP. I'm just trying to rack my brain. I don't know. But I assume that wouldn't be very common.
So we got a Big Ten game tonight against Illinois and Wisconsin. And I look at that game, and I know Kofi Cockburn, he came back in November against Notre Dame. He didn't come back as strong, though. He struggled a little bit, especially in that Arizona game. Do you think he'll come up big in a big game like this, or have you seen him waver in some of those bigger games?
So there's a couple things about this game that kind of stand out to me. Is Illinois has surprised me at the tempo that they're playing. They're playing really slowly this year, 302nd in average possession length so far this season. Wisconsin's been the faster paced team of the two. And both of Wisconsin's been all about stalling and playing really low scoring games in the past. So it's really surprising to see Illinois being the slower of these two teams. Illinois really hasn't been winning by margin that much, guys. I mean, I don't know that Illinois should be favored by 7.5 points in this game. That's quite a few points, and a game that I think could be a little bit lower scoring than what the odds suggest as well. So in this one, I'm going to look toward Wisconsin plus the points. Davis has been tremendous all year. You got Davison as a good option and a good defender as well. These Wisconsin guys have outperformed my expectations by quite a bit. Now, I think Illinois has a higher upside if you're talking about a team that has a chance to win the title in the long run. But, I couldn't lay 7.5 points in a game like this. I think plus 7.5 is a good look in this game. The Wisconsin team, the number one thing about them is they take care of the basketball. Only 12% of their possessions have ended in turnover. That's fantastic. I mean, you see some of these teams in college basketball today at 23 or 24%, and here they are at 12%. You can win games or cover spreads based on a couple things. Taking care of the basketball and making free throws. Wisconsin, 76% from the line and taking care of the basketball that well. So I'm going to go with Wisconsin here as my look in this one, plus 7.5.
Now we'll take a look at another college game in the Missouri Valley. This MVC, Kyle, is very top heavy. Loyola Chicago 7-2, Drake 7-2, Missouri State 7-3, Northern Iowa 7-3, and the bottom's kind of bad. But Missouri State in that top half, Southern Illinois 4-6, not terrible, but these teams hook up tonight. Salukis a short home dog. Missouri State's been very impressive, and Southern Illinois off a win against Valpo, but they still have struggled of late. What do you think about this one, Missouri State on the road favorite?
I wanted to talk about this game mainly because the MVC doesn't get talked about as much as a lot of the big conferences. And my style is to bet a lot of games with mid-majors and small teams. A lot of times I hear, why are you picking a game with Merrimack versus, whatever team? Why are you picking games like that? I just feel like there's good value in those games. This is a conference that isn't as strong as it was a few years ago. They've lost some key teams in the conference, obviously. But Loyola Chicago is very good. Missouri State already went to Loyola Chicago and won 79-69 there just a couple weeks ago. I think I would lean Missouri State laying the points. And my other lean in this game is under. And I know this sounds crazy because they played an 81-76 game earlier this year. But if you look at Southern Illinois' games in general, Southern Illinois has some extremely low scoring games. 59-47 against Loyola. And then the next game, 44-39 against Loyola. You're playing 44-39 games with 57 possessions. 131 could be tough to get to if the possessions are that low. And I think Southern Illinois wants to slow this game down more than they did before. That was a case where Southern Illinois got down. It turned into an epic fouling fest at the end of that game. And I've talked to both of you about this before. The frustrating thing about betting unders in college basketball is you never know. There could be 25 points in the last minute if it goes the wrong way. But, this is a game that I think will be tight. Obviously, overtime's a possibility too. So that's a negative for the under. But I think Southern Illinois has to want this game to be slowed down. They're 350th out of 358 in the country in tempo. You don't see many games with a team playing that slow with a total above 130. So I'm going to look to the under. And like I said, it's kind of a contrarian thought because it'd be easy to say, well, they scored 150 some points the last time they played. They have to go over this. But I also don't think that's the best way to handicap games long term. It's almost like saying, well, this team beat that team, so this other team has to have beaten that team. That theory just doesn't work very well. So I'm going to go with the under here. I haven't bet it yet because I've seen this one kind of ticking up, but I think I'll put a little bit of money on the under in this matchup.
There's Kyle Hunter. You can check him out at Kyle Hunter Picks. And so far in college basketball this season, Kyle, 76-63, nearly 55%, plus 610. Oh, we forgot to ask one thing, Stephanie, about the Texas game last night. Do you want to bring that one up?
Yeah, well, it was a pretty hostile environment when you look at, coming back from Texas Tech and they were booing him. Chris Beard, he returns to his former team, first time doing that since he left for Texas. Mark Adams gets the win, 77-64. I was wondering if you were surprised by that outcome, him playing his old team. Tough environment. I think they had like the police involved and things like that. But yeah, the outcome of that one.
Did we have to bring up this game? Because I lost the under on this one. That was a bad play. Just Texas Tech was much better on offense than I thought they would be. Texas's defense was number one in half-court defense coming into that game, and Texas Tech looked really good offensively against them. I have to say, I love the good environment like that, but who can really blame Chris Beard for the situation? He took way more money and goes back to, I believe he went to Texas, correct?
Or he worked there. He's got a connection there. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, he was at
Texas is the pride and joy.
Yeah. I don't know. Do we really need to have doormats jumping on, Chris Beard and all that? I appreciate the fact that they wanted him to stay, but he also did a lot for Texas Tech. That program's way better off than it was when he first got there, that's for sure. So I think it was a fun environment, a tough place to play, certainly. As far as my takeaways, though, I think Texas Tech has a pretty high upside. They're a team that I wouldn't want to bet against come tournament time because they're excellent defensively. And if they're going to be that good on offense, that's not a team that I want to play against in March Madness. Now, obviously, they have a great home court advantage, and they wouldn't have that in the big dance. But Texas, to me, I don't know. Something seems a little off about that Longhorns team. They're just not gelling the way you would think. They had all kinds of transfers come in, top guys. But it kind of seems like they don't move the ball around as good as sometimes. Marcus Carr is a good player, but does a lot of dribbling and isolation basketball. So I don't know. Texas doesn't seem to have the upside that a lot of people thought they would coming into the season. I think Texas Tech is the team with the higher upside of those two.
Kyle Hunter, you can find him on Vegas Insider and also on Twitter at Kyle Hunter Picks. And Kyle does a great job with the totals. College football, he's outstanding in that. College basketball, he's had a great season in that as well. And also in the NBA, can't forget about that. You're a very low volume guy. You say that a lot on Twitter in the NBA.
Yeah, I think I'll share a story with you from yesterday. So I almost played the Warriors -2 yesterday. And then I started thinking, I think the Warriors might rest some players. I mean, I think there'll be some guys sitting out, so I'm going to pass. I'll wait till later in the day. Then they sit out everybody, and the line goes to 5.5 or something like that. I'm feeling like a genius for a long time. I checked the score in the third quarter. I'm like, wow, man, I'm so glad I didn't take the Warriors. And then the Warriors end up winning by 4 points. I'm like, I wish I would have taken the Warriors. But I mean, I think it says a lot about the Warriors team that they were able to win that game at San Antonio. Without the stars. I mean, it's surprising to me. Warriors, really, really high upside team. But yeah, the NBA is tough right now because there's so many of the late injury notifications, COVID things. I hope the COVID situation will improve going forward. I think it is getting better than it was. So NBA is tough because the information comes out so late. And, I don't like to make my plays right before the game starts. So, yeah, I'm low volume in it and pretty equal inside in totals with NBA. But if you like my college basketball, it's going to be probably 90% totals.
Do you stay away from parlays in the NBA? One last one, just because I took a parlay last night and it did not hit just because Devin Booker decided to go off. But do you usually take parlays in the NBA? I'm straying away from them at this point.
Yeah, I stay away from parlays completely in the NBA. The only thing that I've taken parlays in is just kind of obscure sports, and I usually bet those small, like a tennis parlay or something like that, because the money line prices are so high. The NBA, to me, there's too much variance for me to take parlays in the NBA. Same in college basketball. And in general, I don't want to bet a lot of money on parlays, so I would keep it small.
All right, Kyle, we appreciate it. Thank you. And I don't know if we'll talk before the Super Bowl, but best of luck to your Bengals and see what happens. Take the ride and back in the Super Bowl.
Who day?
Who day? Who day?
Thank you, Kyle.
Thanks.
There is Kyle Hunter. And that's right, you Bengal fans. Hey, you know what? You can celebrate all you want, seriously. After all these years of futility, you got to do it.
I mean, they're still in a rebuild phase. I mean, I would consider Burrow a rookie. I mean, how many games did he even get to play last year? I mean,
it was like halfway through. It was probably like maybe.
Yeah, I know it was that Washington game. I know it had to have been like I felt like it was like week 5, maybe week 6, but still, he didn't even get a full season. So those reps still help him, I think, coming into this year. But he had no offensive line. You know what I mean? And that didn't really change. But yeah, it's a big story. I think the whole country's rooting for the Bengals at this point. Everyone wants to see them win.
I just think the funniest part, Jamar Chase sits out his final year, or he has that year at LSU that he just passes on, and he's getting ready for the NFL. He goes to the NFL, and he's there with his buddy Joe Burrow, and preseason can't catch a ball. He drops everything. I was like, what's wrong with this guy? Why is he not good? He can't catch a ball. This is terrible. Turns out to have a fantastic rookie season.
Well, I mean, Micah Parsons also sat out too, and he came out and he's looking like defensive rookie of the year, even maybe defensive player of the year. But yeah, like we didn't see a lot from guys who sat out during COVID, but we saw the magic of the two of them at the national championship. They both had historic nights, broke records Joe Burrow set a single season passing record as the quarterback at LSU, and Jamar Chase also set records in that national championship game. I mean, they're a dynamic duo, and I think it helps when you got two young guys that also have played together before. I think that's a good asset if you're that young. And gosh, do we have a lot of quarterbacks to look forward to, especially in the AFC. I mean, Mac Jones could come out and be a contender in the mix with them, and Josh Allen and Mahomes. I mean, man, we have so much exciting things to look forward to with the NFL.
Yeah, and Burrow made it to the end, Stafford made it to the end, and Brady didn't, Aaron Rodgers didn't, Mahomes didn't. So
it's a good thing for football.
Bit, at least for this one season, we have some new faces. I mean, Stafford's been around a long time, but now we're seeing him finally on the stage. But look, the Rams got the pressure on them. I mean, I think Cincinnati's got no pressure because they go into this one, in a sense, in a road game. If they lose, they lose. But the Rams playing at home, and the Rams had a lot of high expectations going into this season.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like everyone wants the Bengals, but they're acting like it's not going to happen. I mean, look at how they played in these environments before. They have comeback wins against big teams. I don't know. And I think that Burrow plays even better with a chip on his shoulder. I think that's like a helpful thing. I mean, look at what Michael Jordan did. He would make up things in his head to get some juice to challenge people. So I think they're in the best position to win it. You're right. I'm with you. I don't want to do like a halftime bet because I would not be surprised if the Bengals slip away in the first half again, just because we've seen that. But hey, don't count anybody out. We've learned that this playoff, especially the Bengals. The way their defense showed up, so it's been such an offensive conversation, especially with the Rams and the Bengals. But I think that's the X factor here. The way they played in that last game and the way they showed up when they needed it most.
I just can't see this being a high scoring game. That's the one thing, and the totals dropped already. I just can't really see this going back and forth. And obviously the Rams have offensive weapons, but this isn't like the Chiefs where they're going up and down the field at any moment. And Rams had 7 points with 6-7 minutes left in that game, whatever it was in the fourth quarter. So, I mean, the Rams struggled for a long time to score in that NFC Championship. So, we'll see how it goes.
What did you take for that one? I had no idea which one to take. My gut said Rams, but the stats said 49ers for me. I felt like I knew the Rams were going to win, but I just didn't have any concrete reasoning because I had those stats for 49ers. So, yeah.
I just thought that after I had Green Bay the week before, and Green Bay was upset.
Same. Oh, who didn't? Yeah.
And I was like, all right, we got this. And then when the Packers fumbled at midfield was a killer in the first half, then obviously not scoring in the final play. They had the long pass, Aaron Rodgers at the end of the half, and they had the field goal blocked was a killer. But still up 10-3, I thought they had it. And then the block punt and all that happened. I just didn't think San Francisco could carry it again the next week. And even though they had owned the Rams, they had won 6 straight, I just kind of thought that the Rams were going to get this one as far as like more convincing fashion. They still won the game, but that was the first time in the playoffs we saw an underdog cover in a loss. So now with the Bengals, you wonder, do the points matter or not? Will they win it straight up, or are they still going to sneak in and get the point spread cover in a loss? And that's the other question.
Well, I mean, the spread's at like 4 right now. Have we seen movement? Yeah. I mean, I was afraid to take it last week. I mean, the way these games are finishing out, I mean, we had overtime, so I'm happy to take. I mean, if I'm going to take a team outright, I'm going to take the spread for this one.
Yeah. So, I think take the points and at least cover yourself in case it gets down to a field goal game. I look at it like that. If you like the Bengals, I always side with the give me points and not let me worry about it, because the worst thing that can happen is you take the money line and it's a tie game late. The Rams kick a field goal. You could have won if you would have taken the points. So that's where I'm not really, I know people would disagree with me, but I just think take the points if you like the Bengals instead of going with the money line, just so you have that little insurance.
I learned that this past week. Yeah, I took him outright. I took him my odds were at plus 275. So, I mean, I got good odds for what the number was creeping to during the game if you were live betting. But yeah, I learned the hard way. I mean, I still, I won that bet, but I could have taken the money or the spread. Yeah. So that's why I'm doing it this time. I have full faith that the Bengals will win. I'm not even, I feel like at 4 points, it's kind of the same for me as the money line at this point.
Stephanie Otey, you could find her on Twitter at Steph Otey. And also, you're doing a lot more social media with us, TikTok stuff. What else are you doing? Tell everyone what you're up to.
Yeah, so I'm doing a pick every day. We're mixing it up just because football is finishing out and everyone knows my pick for the Super Bowl. I'll get into some props probably later in the week or at the start of next week. We're going to be hitting the field at some point too, going out, talking with people about what they're picking, doing, and then we're getting deep into NBA and college hoops too. So making picks every day.
All right, so you can find her again at Steph Otey on Twitter and also on the Vegas Insider Twitter. We'll also see Stephanie on there. Stephanie, thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it. And we'll catch up with you next week. We're still another week before the game happens, so we'll talk more about the game next week.
Thanks, Kevin. See ya.
All right, there is Stephanie Otey, and always good to see her every Wednesday here on the Daily Insider. We'll talk about some NBA coming up in just a moment. You know this guy. You've seen him. We talk about him every day. He is the GOAT. And he's made his way down to Louisiana because DraftKings is now in Louisiana and he's wandering around. I don't know if he's going to LSU or Tulane first. He may go to Louisiana Lafayette. He can go wherever he wants because he's the GOAT. You could be the GOAT too. You really can. And if you just check out DraftKings.com today, score your seats to the Tournament of Champions. The DraftKings Championship Series is the ultimate competition of contest winners from daily fantasy sports, sportsbook, and casino. The one and only place you can compete in the king of competitions. The best of the best in each domain will compete for series supremacy in their own domain's Tournament of Champions. They'll have one goal in mind: win the ultimate crown and earn the title of the greatest of all time, the GOAT. That's right. Find him. He may not give you the crown. He may let you try it on, but you're not going to take it from him permanently. But you can also get your own crown. Go to DraftKings.com today for more information. All right. Let's take a look at some NBA now before we hit the road, and we'll begin. Magic and the Pacers, they play in Indianapolis tonight. Orlando off a tough loss at Chicago last night. First time those teams played a high-scoring game, but the Bulls getting some revenge on the Magic after Orlando blew them out at home this past week. Magic at 11-41. Pacers come in at 19-33. Domantas Sabonis, he's in the COVID protocol. Pacers have won 2 of 3. That's big for them. They just came off a win over the Clippers, but the Pacers right now 4-0-1 to the over in the last 5 games. First meeting between those two this season. The Wizards and the 76ers, it has not been magic for Washington. They're 0-6 straight up and against the spread their last 6 games. Bradley Beal's sideline, wrist injury. They hung with Milwaukee last night, and this is a rough road trip, all right? Memphis, Milwaukee, Philadelphia. And they get Phoenix after this at home, and then the Heat and the Nets. So this is bad times for the Wizards. But the Wizards did hang with Milwaukee last night, getting 11. Milwaukee outscored them by 9 in the fourth to cover. So Washington will try to get over on Philadelphia tonight. In fact, the last time the Wizards won a game came against the Sixers back on January 17th, 117-98 in D.C., as 2-point dogs, but Beal played in that game. Joel Embiid back tonight. He sat the Memphis game. He rested. 5 straight wins for Philadelphia. They have not covered their last 2 as a double-digit favorite. So playoff rematch between those two coming up tonight in Philadelphia. The Hornets and the Celtics in Boston, and this line has shot up a little bit. Boston open laying 4.5. Now it's up to 6.5 at BetMGM. Charlotte, they lost by 25 to the Clippers on Sunday. Ugly effort that snapped a 2-game winning streak. And now the Hornets heading back to Boston where they beat the Celtics back in mid-January, 111-102 as 3-point dogs. The Celtics will hit the road after this. Not exactly daunting to start the road trip at Detroit and at Orlando, but looking for some revenge against Charlotte tonight. Celtics have won 4 of their past 5 games. The ESPN early game, Memphis and New York at the Garden. So the Knicks fans will see John Morant tonight. The Grizzlies are 35-18. They have just rolled along right now, the top team in the Southwest. And they're still behind the Warriors and the Suns for the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. Memphis had their 3-game winning streak snapped at Philadelphia. That was the game Embiid didn't play. That one went to overtime. Sixers won 122-119. Knicks snapped a 2-game slide, beating Sacramento back on Monday, 116-96. And look, the Knicks have not been very good recently. They are 2-6 their last 8 games. They get the Grizzlies tonight. First time they're meeting since last year. Knicks beat them in overtime at the Garden, and also the Knicks won in Memphis. I remember that game. That was a clear-cut under, barely went over, 118-104 win for New York. I want to go over this really fast because this one really, I remember this from last year, still irks me to this day. So Knicks and Grizzlies combined for 47 in the first, 50 in the third, 45 in the fourth on a 221.5 total. That should be an easy under. 44-36 in the second, 80 points in the second quarter. That could have been one of the worst total beats last year in the NBA, or maybe in all of sports. That was a pretty devastating one. Cavaliers and the Rockets in Houston. Houston is 0-10 straight up and against the spread. Their last 10 at home, all's a dog. So that has not been good. Cavaliers 31-20, and they just came back and beat New Orleans back on Monday. They've won 4 of 5. However, they have lost 2 straight on the road at Detroit and at Chicago. Now they're favored again tonight. Rockets have dropped 5 straight, or 4 in a row rather, and each of the last 3 on this homestand. Last time these teams met was back in mid-December. Cleveland won 124-89. So Houston, we'll see if they have revenge in their minds, but they've been bad. Thunder and the Mavs from Dallas. Mavericks laying 12.5. And fourth and final regular season meeting between these two teams. All 3 have gone under. 103-84 Dallas win, 95-86 Dallas win, and the Mavs just edged the Thunder 104-102. So Oklahoma City looking to beat Dallas for the first time this season, and that total at 205.5, lowest total out of the 4. We've seen a lot of unders over the years, but Mavericks, they are a heavy favorite tonight. Tim Hardaway Jr., he's sidelined with a foot injury. So the Brooklyn Nets, they lost at Phoenix last night. James Harden came back. They have dropped 5 in a row. Sacramento has lost 7 in a row. Something's got to give tonight at a Golden One Center. I was about to say Arco Arena, but Golden One Center tonight. Brooklyn, coming off that 10-point loss at Phoenix. I mean, losing to Golden State and Phoenix, no shame, the last 2. Sacramento off an 0-5 road trip, 2-3 against the spread. And then the Kings go to Golden State. I know, not a long trip, but they go there coming up tomorrow. But the Kings facing the Nets for the first time this season. Last year, 2 very high-scoring games. Brooklyn won 136-125 in Sacramento, then 127-118 at home, and covered a couple short lines. 2 games to go. We will look at Nuggets and the Jazz, and Denver off an embarrassing loss at Minnesota last night. Utah, they are losing that grip on the top spot in the Northwest Division. They've lost 5 in a row. Golden State, Phoenix twice, Memphis, Minnesota. All right, good competition. They get Brooklyn after this at home. But the Jazz, without Joe Ingles, torn ACL, he's out for the season. Donovan Mitchell, he is cleared to play, but it's still the conditioning thing I think we're waiting for on that. Rudy Gobert is sidelined. So the Jazz got a lot of injuries to key players, and that's killing them right now. Denver, they had won 5 in a row, lost at Minnesota last night, 130-115. So the Nuggets on no rest this evening, going to Utah. And Denver, 2-6 straight up, 1-6-1 against the spread with no rest. Also 6-2 to the over with no rest. So that number at 222.5. Final game of the night, Lakers and the Blazers in LA. LeBron's still out. Lakers at 24-27. For as bad as Portland's been, and Damian Lillard's been sidelined, but they're 21-30, only 3 back of the Lakers. It's not crazy. The Blazers wrapping up their road trip tonight off a 14-point loss at Chicago, off a 17-point defeat at Oklahoma City. Lakers have lost 3 in a row. They're off this big road trip. Technically, they have a road game next, but it's at the Clippers, so they're just staying in the same building and flipping the floor. But LA has dropped 3 straight, all without LeBron. So now you see what they do without LeBron again. Lakers did pummel the Blazers 139-106 back on New Year's Eve in that game at Crypto.com Arena. But, both teams struggling, and Lakers got a lot of problems right now as far as not having their best player in the lineup. BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks, and we tell you about them all the time. They are live in New York. They're live in Louisiana, and BetMGM offers a welcome bonus for casino and sportsbook new users. Enter the bonus code VIBONUS for a $25 no deposit free casino game plus a 100% deposit match up to $1,000. Enter VI bonus on the BetMGM Sportsbook app to receive a $1,000 risk-free bet for your first wager. Again, BetMGM, check out the app today. Go to BetMGM.com as well. And they are live in New York and also live in the great state of Louisiana. Mike, thanks to Stephanie Otey and Kyle Hunter for joining the show today. And we'll have another edition of the Daily Insider coming up tomorrow at noon Eastern. And also don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Vegas Insider. It's greatly appreciated. And we'll talk more Super Bowl. The props will be out soon. All the props. The many pages of props will be out very soon. And we'll hit on that as well when all those become available. I am Kevin Rogers. Thanks a lot for tuning in to this edition of the Daily Insider. And as always, best of luck with your bets.